times worse than a hurricane.
Okay.
Because you got 5 minutes warning with the tornado, you got 3 days warning with the hurricane. If your ass isn't in the right place for the hurricane, it's your own damn fault.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we have a warning for the remains of a hurricane coming up here Tuesday and Wednesday.
See,
Oh,
you
yeah,
don't
that's
have,
right. You got one coming up.
yeah, you don't have Pele protecting your island.
No.
No. See,
That's the difference. See, we got those big 3 mountains there,
Yeah.
and they're all magnetic.
Yeah.
And they tend to push the hurricanes away unless they are really, really strong.
are you serious?
Absolutely serious.
They are magnetic? I didn't realize that.
You cannot use a magnetic compass on the islands.
Wow.
The soil is like Iron Mountain in Michigan.
Wow.
There's so much iron because of the magma.
Now, is that just on your island or is that
No,
all
that's
the
all of them.
all of them?
The soil on Kauai is red from rust.
That I know.
So you got rust, you got iron.
Got it.
Kauai is the oldest island. The big island is almost the newest island. There's one that's going to pop up about 40 miles south of it pretty soon.
Mm-hmm.
The magma is coming out. It's the same iron magma from the core. So it's a big iron magnet.
Wow. That's truly interesting. Did not know that. Alvin, do we have audio and video from you? Waiting for Alvin to figure it out. If you don't know how to do it, you need to unmute yourself and start video. There you go. I think you got something going, right?
Hey, I'm here.
Okay. All right. Well, welcome everybody, as I started out to say, and now I'm continuing forward. Normally we'll have our open forum and then we'll get right into our program for the night. Well, it's not really a program, but going into our going to our subject matter tonight. So let's start out with our open forum. Who'd like to open up the floor with the first question of the evening? Nobody's got problems.
Is there any?
Everybody's computers are working dynamite.
I have a comment.
Okay. No, you don't like my hair. I know that. Okay.
What's it? What's the Windows version past 1909? And has anybody checked it out? Because when you do updates, you've got a chance to do your regular updates, and then you drop down and do the next one, the 2003 or whatever it is.
It's 2004 is the next one.
2004. Has anybody tried that one? Is that one safe and secure?
A couple of us, like myself and Bert Good, have some systems with 2004. The machine I'm on right now had a little bit of a problem with a mouse pointer. This has a dual one. It's an HP EliteBook 840. So I took it off. 1909 has been very stable and very good for quite some time. So if you're not on 1909, at least go to that one. Anybody who's got a version that's probably older than 1903, Microsoft is now forcing an upgrade, and they're probably pushing everybody on to 2004. The bad part about it is there's no guarantee you won't run into some kind of hardware problems. The only piece of advice, make a good solid image backup of your system first. Make sure it's verified, and make certain you know how to restore it and you have the restore boot media. That way, if anything goes wrong with the new version, pop in the restore media, boot your computer off of that, restore the backup you made, and your problem's resolved for the time being.
Sounds like a lot of work, Tim.
Yes, computers have never been devices where you buy them, you use them for years on end with doing nothing.
Well,
Sorry, not reality.
well, only Macs are like that, right? Where you never have to worry about it. It just happens in the background.
Sorry, I have two Macs, and now they're old. They won't take the last two versions of the operating system.
Okay.
But at the same time, too, I've also worked on somebody else's who is newer. And bottom line is, I even got her to start backing up her system. I don't like the method of backup on the Mac that I have found. Most Apple's software, whether it's for the phone, the iPad, your MacBook or a MacBook Pro, etc., are all very high priced, and you have to pay quite a bit of money for them.
Well, that's the Apple tax.
Yeah, and whereas with Windows, there's lots of free versions. Now, the backup version I have for the Mac, besides Timeline, is only can have one image, unless you take your external drive and make umpteen partitions, and you can keep track of which one is the oldest, which one's the next oldest, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know how else to get it done on a Mac, quite frankly. But now on Windows systems, long time ago, I switched to Macrium Reflect. I use the free version, which means I cannot restore individual files and folders, but I've never really had a need for that. So I don't, the free version works just fine for me. I've even used it when I want to resize my drives. I can make an image that'll fit on the new drive and just restore it, even though all I'm doing is backing up the original drive, taking that drive out, putting in the new drive, and restoring the image. And to me, that's fairly simple, but it's time consuming.
Right. Wayne, are you just like biting at the bit to get this new version of Windows?
No, I had trouble about 2 months ago, and it took me about a month to get stuff squared away. So what I did is I made images of all my machines, and I made recovery thumb drives for it, and reloaded software that I lost, and it was a nightmare. But now I got all my equipment running right.
Okay.
Well, really, 1903 seemed pretty stable. 1909 has been very stable. In fact, the machine I'm on right now, I backed it off of 2004 because of the little problem I had with the flakiness of the built-in touchpad, and the buttons weren't working correctly. Put it on 1909, I'm having no troubles so far. That I didn't have originally. I've got, this thing has a old-fashioned style IBM ThinkPad joystick with a mouse pad that has buttons on the top and buttons on the bottom. Only the ones on the top can I get working. The ones on the bottom, I don't know what the problem is yet. I've only had the machine a short time in it, and it's kind of like a real pain in the butt that I can't use the lower buttons, and I have sometimes I forget about that.
Is anybody using the late model Dell computers? They've
Late
got
meaning old style or newer ones?
well, they've got a new program called Support Assist. And I'm able to get rid of a lot of other junk it goes through. It'll reflash the BIOS, it'll put updates in and everything. And it checks your number of your computer. What is it? Dell has a number of the computer. It checks that, so it knows exactly what you're supposed to have. And it's
Gotcha.
really big. And you can also use it to piggyback and jumpstart a computer that's wounded, a Dell that's wounded. And it worked out quite well. It's kind of simplified my life, and it works good.
Well, Wayne, you need a simplified life.
Isn't that the truth?
It's too complicated where you're at.
Right.
Most of my systems are used and or broken systems that I fix. So my stuff is older, but I have Dells, HPs, which this is, and Asus primarily. When you're talking Windows systems, Chromebooks, I've got quite a variety there, and the best one I've got is a Dell Chromebook.
Mm-hmm. I've got 2 new Dell laptops, and I've got a full tower and a mini tower. And keeping those 4, I've got a couple of laptops to get rid of, but I haven't got anything else to do but screw around and keep them running.
Yeah.
Same with me, in a matter of speaking.
Yeah, so I use SolidWorks and I love Office. And I've got two copies of Office 19 and 2 of 16.
Wow. You must do a lot of writing or something.
Now, the only thing that I haven't accomplished yet is ringing up one of the computers and pulling a file to edit in Office from another computer over the network.
Yeah, your network sharing is not turned on correctly. You have to have the discovery on and a few other things, and you can transfer files between each of the machines, but sometimes just getting it set up can be a pain in the butt.
Right. But what is this syncing? That means if you update an Office file on one of the computers, if that file is on 1 or 2 or 3 computers, it'll update the ones on the computers you're not using. Is that true?
Don't know about that part.
I think you're thinking about having the file in the cloud.
Well, here's what I'm saying. Sometimes I'll start setting up a chart and making a list, and I'll have one of my computers upstairs, maybe in the dining room or whatever. And then my main workstation down here, I'll want to edit that file and work on it. So I have to use the thumb drive to make sure that I back it up and bring it down, then plug it into the machine in my office. And it's just a kind of a pain in the neck.
That unless it's a very sensitive information, that's what the cloud is for, OneDrive, so that you can temporarily store the document there and then move to any machine, including outside your home. As long as you can sign in as yourself, you'd have access to the cloud, and you'd be able to get that document on somebody else's computer.
I
Wayne,
just don't feel comfortable with any critical stuff on the cloud.
I agree with that. It's like I said at the beginning, as long as it's not sensitive information, I don't trust the cloud either, unless I personally encrypt it and put the encrypted copy up there.
Pete,
Right. Right.
Pete,
okay, so Wayne, can you see, since they're both on your network, I'm assuming they're both on your network.
Mhm.
Can you see the machine in my network places? Is the machine name?
Yeah.
first, the other machine needs to be turned on.
Right. Right.
They both
In
need to be turned on.
in other
Network
words-
sharing has got to be on.
Right.
And then you can, I do it on this machine. Okay, so I'm gonna take over my shoulder. I can get there. There's another machine over there
Mm-hmm.
on top of it. Okay, so that's literally 7 feet from me. And that runs the router. So I do all my creation on the machine I'm sitting at. And I have a network drive file location on the machine for the machine, the PC for the machine, that I need to actually, and I have a shortcut on this machine that I can click on, and then I got to log in with the credentials for the other machine to get to that file space, to get to that folder.
But once you have the login done, you'll be able to go back and forth all day long.
I can swap with two explorers on the screen and just swap files back and forth.
So that might help you, Wayne.
Mhm. Well, like certain computers I would work on, I use Office on all four of them, but I use SolidWorks on one, and then I'll do like grocery shopping on another machine, and searching the internet, I stay on a different machine.
Okay, so the other thing I do is between the machine that I'm on right now and home, the login credentials are exactly the same. So when I come in over the network through the Microsoft Drive, I can have the Microsoft Drive on both machines, and I can see from both without having to do anything, because the username is the same on both machines.
Now, what I do is the machines that stay in the house here, I don't have any password on them. The machines, the laptops that I take out, or I could take out, those all have passwords.
So you're going to have the same type of credentialing if you're going to use the internal network on all the machines.
Give it a
So
whirl.
if you're
Let's see if
using
it works.
passwords, you're using passwords on the laptops to get the files.
Mhm.
Then you need to use passwords with the same username on the desktops, unless you actually, when you connect up, you actually type in the username and the password.
Now, yeah, to get to Microsoft account, you have to use the same password as that you log on to. So I was having a problem. I would set up a password, and I was going in and out of the Microsoft account because I was taking Office off old machines and putting it on new machines, and I kept running into trouble with passwords. So then when I was talking with Microsoft, he says, "Oh, no. He says, now you changed it. He says the login you use on your computer has to be the same login you use for Microsoft account, same password."
Makes it
Yeah.
work a lot easier.
Now,
It will work a whole lot easier.
if somebody would just make a nice flow chart for all that stuff, it drives you nuts knowing what's possible and where you're at.
Well, you can, you don't have to have always a Microsoft account login to do the internal networking. Local Drive will do it as well.
Mhm.
Right.
So, but he is simplifying it by having the same login on each of the machines, but it's not necessary. You just
Okay.
have to know what login credentials are required on the machine you're trying to attach to in order to extract the information.
So now, how do you handle that between a machine that has no log-on and one that does have the log-on?
That's the problem. You got to have a login of some kind. Without a login with a password, networking doesn't work.
Oh.
Now you can have you can bypass it if you have the same password already logged in, correct? Like doing NetPlez so you can bypass your login. Am I right?
I don't know going across machines.
Okay.
But see, the thing is with Wayne, he's got his desktop machines with no password, and networking doesn't work without credentials.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's the fight. Okay.
Who's your Wayne? You get your internet from Comcast?
Yes,
So they get you, so you're using a Comcast router?
yes.
Does Comcast router have the ability to put a hard drive on it?
I don't know.
I
Is that
believe
Look in the
it
back
did.
and see if there's a USB port.
If there's a
Yeah,
US
I believe it did have USB ports. I dropped Comcast last year.
Okay, so another thought, Wayne,
Yeah.
is that you could put like a USB stick, you know, a nice size USB stick, and stick that into the back of your router.
Yes.
And then that's where you're going to store the common files. And then you just go to each machine and point to that file that's on the router.
Oh,
It'd be a network attached storage device. I don't know if this works with Comcast, but it's an option.
just like a server.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a good thought. Let me go look at that thing.
I like that. He's running.
There is one little flaw, and that is if anybody hacks the router, and that's very doable, they have access to whatever he has stored on there, and it sounded like he had sensitive information.
Possibly. Yeah, I think that's if someone's going to hack the router, that means they're in your network.
Yep.
So whether you have it on a computer past the router, they're going to be able to get to that too.
Yep. Unless
I don't think it's good.
but usually your systems have a firewall automatically available on each individual computer. That's the way Windows comes.
Okay.
It's not hard to break though.
Okay.
And,
Wayne, did you see a USB port?
Yep, there's two of them.
There's two of them.
yeah, one's for printer.
Well, take one of them, take a USB stick, put a file on it or two, and plug it in and see what happens and see if it becomes available. I don't know. I'm just shooting in the dark here because I know that my router, my ASUS routers, lets me put a hard drive or a USB stick, plug into it, and then everybody on the network can access that drive that's on
Did
the
it
router.
do that or automatically, or did you have to go into the router configuration and give
You
it
do
a
have,
name?
you do have to configure it in the router, like turning it on, the feature on. But then once it's on, then it becomes visible as a NAS or a network attached storage device.
Sanford, the answer is Comcast with their Xfinity gateway does not have that capability.
Ah, okay.
What's the new Wi-Fi one? The other point is with the USB ports, there's a lot of people that have these various routers that have a USB port, and they have maybe 2 or 3 computers, something like that, and they have old-fashioned USB only printers, and normally that would be attached to one of the computers.
Mhm.
That computer has to be on to be able to share it with the other computers. Whereas if you take that USB printer, plug it into the router, anybody can access it.
Okay. Right, right. Well, we
For-
give you a couple different solutions there, Wayne. Next month, you could tell us what you got to work.
Okay,
For a Comcast network that is based on their gateway, it will be necessary to get a separate NAS device.
a separate what?
A
NAS.
separate NAS.
Network attached
Attached
storage.
storage. A trip to Fry's.
When
Right.
you put a USB drive or a external hard drive via the USB port of the router you have now, you are creating essentially a NAS device. And but they have separate NAS devices that just plug into your network, and with a Ethernet cable on the back of the router, and anybody can access those as well.
Oh,
It's
Uh-huh.
one of the ways that some cord cutters that like downloading movie files, etc., they put them on a NAS device, and from any computing device they have in the house, they can access any movie they want and watch it.
That's an NAS.
Yes.
Right.
Network access storage.
I got you. Okay. Okay.
So there's even hard drives, standalone hard drives that have the Ethernet port on the back of them, and they've got it built in.
Right.
Right.
And those you could just plug right into your router and they'll be visible. So that's an option too.
As long as the NAS capability is in the device and you're not relying on the Comcast router.
Right.
Now, if in the case of what Bob is saying about, I assume he's talking the Wi-Fi version of Xfinity. In my house, whether I had Comcast before or my current provider, which is WOW, I have my own internal routers that are attached to the ISP provider modem router. And so I can connect my devices to my internal ones, and there's no disruption. If I change ISP providers, I get in their device, attach one cable from the back of that modem router into my router, and I'm in business again.
Yeah,
That's
that,
what it's like here in Hawaii. They provide a simple modem, and it's Charter here,
Okay,
Charter Communications here.
right.
And they just provide the modem with an Ethernet port and then another port for your telephone switcher if you got landline going
Right.
through.
And then you got to plug in your own router into that cable
Right.
modem, right?
You can plug in either a hard non-wireless router or a regular router, or even a combination of the two.
And you could even plug in a switch, which distributes the one line to multiple devices. That's essentially what a router in part is doing. It's a combination of a small switch with traffic cop capabilities.
So a router handles the
IP addresses.
EIP addresses.
That's
And you
the
can put a
traffic cop
switch after the router, and you can go as far as you want to go after that point.
Correct. But the switches still get the IP address from the router.
From the router and not the cable modem.
Correct.
Right.
So the flow is from the cable that comes in from the outside world to a cable modem, goes then to a router, and then from the router, it can, if you so choose, to a switch.
Yes.
Or multiple switches.
Like I
Multiple
said,
switches.
a router really is a traffic cop that distributes IP addresses internally.
Right.
And where you connect Ethernet ports on the back, that's really a small switch that allows you to distribute the Ethernet capability to other devices, even other routers, to expand things, along with access points. If you got a real long spread out house, or it's a very tall house, you may have to have the access points picking up the signal and resending the signal, and they have to get Wi-Fi throughout your property.
So
Tim, could you elaborate on managed versus unmanaged switches?
Managed switch means that kind of like your router, you can take any of your computer devices, get into the device, and make various changes that accommodate the way you want things to go. An unmanaged one doesn't have that provision. It just pardon me. As an example, unmanaged switch means that you just plug in an Ethernet cable from a router, and then you can plug maybe 4 to 8 or more devices to that one line coming from the router into the switch. And that's where you get most of your unmanaged. Usually you will not have an unmanaged router.
Okay. Pete, I cut you off.
Okay, so you got the hub, which is a totally unmanaged, not a switch. It just shares the line going out in an ad hoc manner. You've got the switch, which actually tries to do some traffic cop networking. So if you got something that's streaming, it might give it more lines rather than a text message. Then you got the router, which is the main traffic cop to the internet, which handles all your IP assignments and your domain name assignments to connect them together. So it takes the HTTP, www, and assigns a path for that in the router.
To somewhere else that's going to do.
Somewhere else, going through
right.
the cable modem.
Right. So your
it
router
says
is
internal or external.
Your router is an internal local manager of IP addresses, as well as it translates to the outside world.
Yes.
And the
If it's
switch,
a modem router.
right.
If it's a plain router, it doesn't know how to talk to the outside world directly.
Okay.
So as long as the modem has to connect to some ISP, either through a Wi-Fi type signal, satellite, and or cable, and
Or a
that's the only
hotspot.
way you can do it.
Yeah.
But I
So
mean, you can think of a router or a managed switch as kind of like a Raspberry Pi computer. Very limited. It has specific programming in it, and all you're doing is giving values to certain characteristics of what you want it to do, such as the passphrase for 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi, and another one for your 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi. You also have lots of different settings. In some homes, one thing to look at if you got a large family is the QoS, because that's the quality of service, and that's where you can, shall we say, limit a hog, such as if you got a kid that does a lot of online gaming, he would suck up all your internet, and you can't do anything else with it, including streaming TV. So the end result is you can limit how much bandwidth he can use through the QoS setting, and everybody else gets at least some degree of service and can do at least some stuff on the internet.
Okay. Let's cut this one and move on to a new subject.
Yep.
Unless someone else has something they want to add to it. Okay. Next question, new direction. Oh boy, I cut that off too quick. Jack, do you have anything?
Yeah, not at the moment yet.
Oh,
Anyway.
okay. At least I know you're awake.
Yeah, yeah. I had to switch computers to get in here.
All right.
Hello.
Yes, Jack. Jack
Yeah,
too.
I have a problem.
Okay.
I got a digital line phone, and I get a message on there that the line is in use, and I can't hang up none of the phones. There's four phones on the system, and I tried some things, but I'm not having any success.
Wait, let's backtrack. You said a digital line phone.
Well, it's not a mobile phone. It's a phone that's not a landline, but it acts like a landline.
It's a VoPi phone service through the ISP's router.
Okay. So he's got a voice over IP that he's getting through his phone line, through his internet access. And Jack, where did you get this phone number for the account?
I don't know what you mean. What phone number?
Well, who's providing you the landline or the service?
AT&T.
AT&T gave you set up with AT&T to get a phone over IP, right?
Yes.
And so therefore the problem lies somewhere with them.
Sounds like it.
I called them and they said if somebody comes out and it's not their problem, it's going to cost me $99.
Okay. Woo. So.
Okay, Jack, what I would suggest is you disconnect all of the phones wire-wise. Unplug them all. Unplug one in.
One of the things I did was I took the batteries out of all the devices.
No, unplug them.
Unplug them.
Physically unplug them.
Okay.
Go one at a time and plug them in and make sure the headset is on the cradle correctly.
Okay.
Because it may not be sitting down where it's actually telling it to not, that it is busy, even though it's not busy.
So if I understand this, Jack, all the additional handsets are using the same phone number?
Mhm.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Is Sanford?
Yes.
And they all get the same message.
I just had that problem myself. What he's got is, like on my Comcast, that's my landline. But I've got a wireless phone with, it had 3 headsets on it.
Okay.
2 of those headsets, like I say, they're wireless off of a, there's 3 phones off of a single, I don't know what you call it. But and there are 3 different rooms.
There's a
And
base
I had
station.
2 of those. And I had 2 of those that did the same thing, line in use. I unplugged, I did everything. I couldn't do anything. Well, I bought a new setup. I went to Costco. It only cost me $45. Everything works fine.
It
Yeah,
could be.
I'm starting to have some problems that I think I'm going to be needing a new set of phones myself, Nat, for similar reasons. When somebody calls me on my quote landline, as soon as I try and pick up, it cuts off the call. Or in some cases, it'll ring twice and automatically hang up on the caller. So sometimes you got to break down and may have to get a new set of phones to control the whole situation. Mine is only 2 phones.
I had that happen with Comcast VoIP, and they at their end were able to reset their network so that this problem stopped happening.
Okay, so there's 2 solutions. Jack?
One of the things that I did that I don't know if I did right was I took the modem and I unplugged it on power from the back. And I thought that would give me a reboot.
It does.
It does. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
that didn't work. There's also a button on the front that says WPS. And you can push that button, and I'm not sure whether that reboots it or not.
no, WPS is something else. WPS is automatic setup of devices. And
Yeah,
really
and WPS is also a big security problem, and it's been recommended for years you turn the feature off in the router.
Bob, you want to add in on this?
all I was saying was, when you unplug the modem, well, there are two different resets. There's a reset button, which is different from WPS. You've got your WPS button. You've got a reset button, which may require inserting some kind of a paperclip or something on some modems. But in any event, that's one type of reset. That's a push the
That's
button.
like a hard reset, if you will.
That's a push the button reset.
Right.
But then there's unplug and wait a while and then plug back in. That only works if you have no battery backup currently operating on that device. So you have to unplug it from the battery backup
Right.
Yeah.
and then wait a couple of minutes.
So
Even with Comcast, they used to say, when you think you got the router as an issue, disconnect all the cables from the device, let it sit for about a half a minute or more, then hook all the cables back up with the power being the last one, and then it'll take 3 to 5 minutes for the device to boot up and sync up.
So my voice over IP here, again, I got 2 wireless ones. One's the base, one's the remote. But at the Comcast cable modem, I mean my charter cable modem, there's a separate one for the phone modem. So it comes out of the internet cable modem and goes into the phone modem to go to the phone lines.
Wow.
Yeah, that's different. That's different.
I got
Wow,
the same.
I haven't seen that kind of setup.
I've got the same setup basically. Now you got to keep in mind, I've got 5 phones on mine, but each phone has a different number, so you know what number you're working with. Could some of the phones have the same number? That would cause the problem.
Well, these all got different numbers.
Okay.
Well, there you have a check of some solutions, Jack. You can go out and buy a whole new setup,
Mhm.
or you could spend $90 and have the guy come in and work on it. And then he may tell you have to go and buy a whole new setup.
Yeah, right.
And that's your solution.
Well, the solution that we're assuming now is we're going to drop that line altogether.
Ah, now that's a very good solution right there.
Just use our cell phones.
What are you getting on your phone, local home phone calls? Probably solicitation.
Yeah.
Yes, mostly.
At least the cell phone, it's easier to block that stuff.
And that makes it the bill a lot cheaper.
Right.
Now I leave my cell phone off most of the time, so my home phone collects my messages and things of that nature, unless they're text messages.
Got it.
And I get Nomo Robo for free, and that takes care of almost all the spam.
Now, what happens if you use 911 on the cell phone? Does that work?
Yeah,
It works.
it works.
It works indoors. It works outdoors.
It works. It's supposed to work.
Okay.
I mean, you don't even have to have you don't even have to have a cellular account to use 911. In other words, you could have a phone that you have no Verizon service registered through, AT&T, whatever. You turn it on. If it's got power, you can dial 911 from that phone and be able to get help.
Yeah, you don't need to log into the phone, and you do not need to have a functioning SIM card. I had a SIM card physically fail on me recently.
Right.
And still have 911 capability.
Yeah, by law, 911 has to work on all phones, period. As long as the phone is functioning, 911 will work.
Okay.
Everything else you have to pay for, but 911 you don't.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll try not to use 911.
Yeah, please don't try using 911. You don't need anybody run into your house for no reason. Okay, next question, new direction. Who else has got a problem and we've got to fix? None. Okay. Anyone buy anything new lately? Well, last month, Tim, you had in the tips that you sent out, there was one little thing in there about Samsung I think it was, no, Amazon was running a deal on micro SD cards, like a 256 gig card for
What?
33 bucks.
I saw it for 29.
That same card?
I don't know if it was the same one or not.
Oh,
saw-
I've seen other ones, but this was the Samsung one. It was a pretty good one. I bought it and very happy with it, that it works just fine for me.
Well, see, that's the thing. Whether it's a USB thumb drive or the SD and micro SD cards, they come in a wide variety of speeds.
And flavors.
And the cheapest ones are usually very slow speed. And when you get the higher priced ones, that they end up being able to handle more throughput than the cheap ones.
Right.
But because of the economic situation we all find ourselves in, there are a lot of things that have come way down on price that used to be much higher. But at the same time, we got a hell of a lot of stuff, especially food and a lot of things you go to the store for that have increased in price like crazy.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it also applies in electronics. I've been looking for some parts of late, and the prices for some of the parts right now are ridiculous.
Oh, yes.
God,
A lot of
I can't believe some parts that might have cost, say, $20 to $25 are now 2 to 3 times that.
Well, welcome to the tariffs.
Yeah, right.
Well,
And actually, this is even from U.S. providers, not from overseas directly. But now, if I wanted a CPU chip for upgrading one of my machines, China, most of their vendors have sucked up all the CPUs, so it's hard to find a local U.S. provider for the chip you want. Most of the time, you have to go to China for it.
gotcha.
And memory's just about the same way.
Yeah, and I'm always losing my memory, so.
Yeah, well,
Anyone else want to chime in on this subject? No. Anyone else buy anything new besides me, who bought that micro SD card?
I bought my Dell laptop.
You bought another laptop?
Yes, I got a 13 and a 15.
Why don't you just add them together and get a 28?
don't laugh. Dell used to make a 21 or 23-inch laptop
Really?
while I was doing service calls for them. And one of them really had a lot of problems in that. And it didn't take very long, within a year or two, they totally discontinued the model because there were too many bugs.
Now, the biggest question I have is how do you take Office off of one machine and put it on another machine with respect to the Microsoft account?
That
You
one
can't.
there, you have to uninstall your local version of the Office on the old machine. Then when you go to install it on the new machine, you stick in the key and everything's just fine.
Okay, okay,
With 365, you don't have that issue at all.
right.
This is
Okay.
just Jack Luff. Just one item that I purchased recently. Amazon did have a one-day sale on SanDisk various products, and I got the 512 mini USB drive. That's, you stick in your computer and you can hardly see that it's there. And so far that's been fine. It's been about
Wow.
10 days.
How much was it, Jack?
I think it was about $60. It was
Okay.
supposedly on sale for almost half price.
Okay. Right, have you filled it up yet?
No, I just got it to have. I've actually been using a 128 for a similar type thing, and I don't quite have that filled up yet either.
Okay.
But the price was so good on the other one, I figured I'd get it. And it's a USB 3.1, so it's the higher speed. So So it's sticking out the left side of my computer and the other one's sticking out the right side of my computer.
Right. I used to have one, those little flat things sticking out of the side of mine until it started messing up with the port. When I leave it in and I kept sliding my laptop in and out of its case, it would inadvertently catch on there and wiggle it around, and it started loosening up the connections over time. So it's just a footnote, Jack, that if you're going to be putting it into your carrying case, you may want to protect it.
Yeah.
Or remove it and then put it in later.
Yeah, they when we were having physical meetings, that was one of the things that I would do there is take the there's also the wireless mouse connection that's there. I'd take them out as I went to the meeting and plug them in at the meeting and take them out on the way home. So, because
So
I
I
did
stopped
problems that way.
having dongle mice on portable machines. Do it all Bluetooth. Just because of that thing sticking out there.
Right. Anyone else?
I actually had the dongle for my wireless mouse go bad a couple of years ago. I thought it was the mouse because the granddaughter was here and was playing around with things and dropped it on the floor a couple of times. But after checking, I found it was the dongle that was bad rather than the mouse was still fine. So I just, I could get a 2-pack of them for $15 on Amazon, and I got that, and it's been fine ever since.
Pete?
Does anybody have experience in doing a kiosk mode on an older Windows box, or converting a Windows box into a Linux box for kiosk mode? I've got a need to convert 2 really older PCs into single use, one for browsing the internet to specific sites, like YouTube for helping members actually browse to get instructions. And then the other one would be is a media server, a jukebox as such, to just be able to just hit the power button and it comes on, and it just gives you the like a jukebox. It gives you the display of what songs are on the drive and what you want to play to make a playlist.
Anyone?
I haven't used kiosk mode, but basically it's a way of restricting the user from being able to have normal access to the computing device. So
Correct.
It's very restrictive, and you have to do some careful thinking about what you're going to set up and what you're going to allow them to do, etc. on their device.
Right.
Now, Pete, you said Linux versus Windows?
Yes. Now I know I don't have hardly any experience in Linux. There are some ones out there that do this sort of thing, but I haven't actually installed a full Linux other than on a Pi.
Bob has a lot of experience with Linux.
My experience is with using Linux as a full desktop operating system, not in kiosk mode, and not as one of these tiny Linuxes that you use to drive a Kodi box, or to drive a Raspberry Pi, or to drive a router or a super router, a security router. I use Ubuntu, the full-scale long-term stability release, and my Chromebook, I have figured out a way to do what appears to be a dual boot, but it isn't actually. It's a container environment with Fedora Linux. There is a scheme for Chromebook that they say is dual boot, but it's actually using a container, and it's using a base image, a Docker image, that type of thing. It's a little better control, more freedom to do what you want than, say, Crostini or the other one that operates inside of Chrome operating system, the older way of doing things. I'm sure Tim knows what that other way is.
So far we haven't solved Pete's problem. Pete, you said older computers. right?
older, being like a core 3 dual core box.
Okay,
Not they run Windows 10,
all right,
but I don't want to just have a box on the network here that they can go anywhere in the world. I don't want to open up the network in the shop here.
okay.
So I want to have one or two of these, and I got multiple ones because Makers was throwing away a whole bunch. And I want to just reblast to a specific use box.
Okay.
Yeah, you'd have to use Kiosk Mode to try and restrict things, but depending on what you're attempting to do, it may get real tricky on getting the initial Kiosk Mode set up correctly. So you're gonna have to experiment a lot.
Yeah.
For a media server, you can set up or buy a Kodi box. And that just does Kodi, and there's a little Linux that goes with it. Quite restricted.
Yeah, you can also use Plex in place of Kodi.
Except that Plex is not open source, and Plex has some privacy issues, which a Kodi box doesn't have to, it doesn't have to let the whole world know what you're doing. It doesn't have to let the vendor know what you're doing. Plex is a
Would
vendor. and
Windows
you
10
can-
family have some limitations you could use?
Windows 10 allows you to do kiosk mode.
Yeah, in the
Pete,
newer versions.
Yeah, I sent Pete, I just sent you, just if you Google how to enable kiosk mode in Windows 10, it'll come up.
Okay.
And it's not hard to set it up, but I don't know how restrictive it is. But I do, like I have a PC, a Windows 10 machine that, it's just a simple thing, that I edited the startup so that it automatically goes right into the specific program on startup and you can't bypass it. But that, I don't know if that will help you or not, but the old days used to have the startup folder and you just put your application in the startup folder and it would start up. No, they took that away and there's a little more. Oh, it is still there, Tim?
Yep,
Okay,
very hidden.
it's hidden.
Yep, it sure is. And you gotta be a miner to go find the darn thing.
Yeah, you know, it is there. You may want to try setting that up. Sorry for disappearing. But I use it for a specific function and my computer starts up and runs one application and that's all it does. In terms of having a media player thing that's going to just play music, you could use Kodi to do that function. Let's see, what else?
So Kodi's a Linux package that you can install?
Kodi is available on every platform. Linux, Windows, Windows 10, Windows 7.
I think it's even Mac too.
Even Mac, yeah, it runs almost on any platform there is.
What does it do?
It's like a media player program.
Okay.
It's a little complicated, a little clunky to use.
Yep.
And takes a little getting used to the interface and how it organizes things and where it puts stuff. But that may or may not be what you're looking to do. Are you looking to just play music?
Yeah.
Yes.
Or play videos?
Well, two different machines.
I know. The one that's
What?
doing media playing only.
Kiosk for music.
For music.
For music.
So you want it, when you turn it on, it's just going to play music in the background all day long.
And I'm going to have a choice of what playlist I want to do.
Oh, now you want to do choicing a playlist.
Of course, it's a jukebox.
A
You put the
jukebox.
quarters in, and you get to pick your songs.
Well,
You can go to Apple's music. You can also go to Spotify, etc. You just have to pay a monthly fee.
I don't want to do that.
No, you can,
Well,
Got the hard copies of all the discs, and I've got them almost all converted to files.
all right, Pete. It's a terrible program, but it's still there, it's still available, and it's free. iTunes. iTunes will do playlists and it'll play music all day long. You just set up a playlist, whatever playlist you want, and you take your RIP music, put it in there, and it goes from there. And I still use it.
Just looking here.
Anyone else got another
The
suggestion?
new
Pete?
Groove music, if I make the one box so that it just goes with the start menu to just that.
Uh-huh.
yeah.
But I'm using Groove on
theoretically.
my own machine here to play. And it has all the functionality, but it's inside the app, inside Windows.
Well, you can take, like Sanford was saying, do a Google search for Windows start folder, and it'll tell you, give you some instructions on how to find it. And
Start
then
corridor?
pardon?
Start corridor or menu?
Start menu. It's a folder.
Yeah, okay.
Startup. It's called startup folder.
Startup folder, startup, yeah. Okay.
Okay.
But generally speaking, that's where you can put in a batch file as an example and have it run through a series of instructions. And batch files are usually not that hard to create.
Right.
And launch a given application. And then you may be able to have a playlist either attached to the application or as a separate file that you can quickly attach to once the program's up and running.
So taking it a half a step further, if I edit the startup file to just put in like Windows, whatever this is called.
Media player?
No, Groove.
Oh, okay. Groove, I'm surprised that still runs.
It's running it.
Groove, Microsoft basically abandoned that sometime back. I mean, several years back now.
Yeah, they
because it
shut
couldn't
that down,
compete.
didn't they?
No,
I thought they did. The problem is it might still run as a standalone item, not connected to Microsoft. And that may be how he's using it. And but it still comes on even 2004 version. But I never got to use it myself. I wasn't into it. But generally speaking, Microsoft tries things just like Google does, but Google does a little bit better and more efficient job of taking their ideas and quickly determining what works and what's not going to work, and get rid of the stuff that doesn't work.
yeah.
Of course, if you adapted it, tough luck.
So I use what is it? Media player to rip.
Right.
Because it does a good job of ripping, and I use Groove as my playback interface on this one.
Yeah, but
Because it
even
does the-
media player is something that is on the death watch list.
Right. Yeah, they've been wanting to get rid of that since they got rid of Media Center in
Yeah.
Windows. Pete, I do suggest use Apple's iTunes.
Sanford,
Yes.
I ran across a piece of shareware on called One AV Share. Is a secure file server for you to do private and secure file sharing from your PC. You can,
We're circling back to Wayne's issue.
yeah, maybe you can securely share videos, documents, images, and music, and they say from what I gather, you have to load it on a PC that has Windows 7, 8, or 10 on it.
Okay, why don't you send the link for that information directly to Wayne in the chat? Okay, and then we'll stick on Pete's subject over here. Pete, had we covered this well?
I think we have sort of.
Sort of.
You know, until you try, you don't know.
Very true. Oh, Mick's coming in.
I posted to the chat a couple of references for Linux-based solutions.
Okay,
So that means, can I actually highlight and do a? I
You
can.
should be able to figure out from the chat the link.
Control C.
which one are you reading, Pete?
What am I reading? I am copying the entire thing to.
Yeah, you can just save the chat. If you save the chat, by default, it'll be in My Documents in a folder called Zoom.
Okay.
How do you do that, Pete? I mean, yeah, Bob?
File.
Open up chat.
Yeah. Save chat on the
Oh, I
bottom.
see. Where you got the hamburger menu, the 3 dots. You click on that and it'll say save chat. Thank you for that bit of info. I didn't know you could
Yes,
do this.
I didn't know you could do that either, so that's good.
Wow, learned something else today.
See what I drag you into?
Ah, it's amazing what happens. Those people from Hawaii,
Mhm.
that 50th state, why do they do that?
Because you can't throw stones.
The
By
land
the
and the
way,
ocean.
Sanford, where's the pizza?
Yeah, we got to order pizza, don't we? What's everybody want tonight? Tim, it's not on your menu. You can't have this. The doctors won't let you eat it anymore.
Yeah, right.
Don't listen to the doctors, right? Okay, so anyone else want to add any other questions or comments before we start covering our topics? Okay, all right, so I sent out a topic list. Is there anything in there that somebody would like us to cover?
I'd like to hear something about the first one about printer security, because I
Printer security.
keep just getting messages that my printer is not secure.
Who's giving you that message?
Jack Clough.
No. I meant you said you're getting a message?
Yeah, when I do a security scan on the network, it comes back that my printer is not secure.
Huh. All right. How to
How
make
is
your
the printer hooked up?
It's wired to the router.
it's wired.
Yeah, it's
Well,
a USB connection to the router.
So you don't require on your home network for you to have a password to print, do you?
That is correct. I do not.
That's probably your security issue.
Well,
That makes
see,
sense.
Some
he's
businesses,
he's using the USB printer connected to the back of the router, which is doable, but there are security issues, just like sticking a thumb drive or a USB hard drive in the back of the router as well. If anything hacks it, tough luck.
but if it's locally set up to get to the printer, someone would have to hack the router, right?
Correct.
So, okay, so, that's under the provisions of somebody hacking your router.
Right, but these days, a lot of the software has been just going bonkers. One of the most recent ones is Microsoft's Defender is labeling CCleaner as pupware malware. So, and there's a lot of other ones that are doing something very, very similar, trying to protect people from PUAs, probably unwanted applications, and PUPs, probably unwanted programs. And these keep showing up in the various AV packages that most of us probably have on our systems. And I have to, on mine, go in and say, for PUPs and PUAs, just give me a warning. And it will list them out, saying that I see them out there, but unless I put check marks in the boxes for each of the entries, it'll leave them alone.
So I'm reading through this article, and I don't think it really gives you a specific solution to the problem. This article discusses the fact there's a need for it and that companies should be doing this, but it doesn't tell you in the article how to do it. So this was a bad post, a bad subject.
Well, the other thing regarding that there is, unless it's maybe a enterprise level printing device, I don't think there's a printer out there that requires like a password and has a firewall built into it to protect the device.
Right.
Or you're screwed.
Yeah, it basically says, you know, it talks about hackers being able to do this, and says companies should be doing more to secure your printer, and that's about all this says. It keeps pointing the fingers back to the companies and telling them clean up their act, but it doesn't tell you at all in the article how to do it yourself. So I'm sorry, Jack, can't help you.
No, that's fine. I'm just, I think it, you know, when I was working, we certainly had network printers that were, you know, big deals, but
Right.
that's where the printer's 10 feet from my computer. I don't think that I have too much to worry about. Now, if I'm printing tax returns, maybe I should worry a little bit more, but if I'm printing number puzzles, I don't think I have to worry.
Right. Now there is memory or RAM in your printer, but I don't know how volatile that is. I'm assuming that it gets overwritten with each file.
Yes, but when you get into commercial copier printers,
That's a whole
they
different
have a
ballgame.
hard drive.
Right, that's a
And
different
therefore
ballgame.
you are writing to the hard drive because you have multiple users trying to use the same device at the same time. So they all go to the hard disk, and then a controller inside the device picks out one file at a time to start printing, and there may be priorities to it.
Right.
Those kind of printers, you do, before you get rid of them, want to take out the hard drive and either destroy it or keep it or do something with it. But offhand, it's a standard type of hard drive. In the stuff that we have as consumers, I don't know of any that have a hard drive in them, just the memory stick. And if the power were to go off, like even say a power outage, whatever was in memory is gone.
Right.
You have to literally do the job over again.
Right. It's very volatile.
So yeah, the commercial ones, the print queue is not on the local machine. It is moved over to the printer or a print server, which is a separate device. And on the local consumer grade ones, the print server is actually on the local machine that is sending the file across to the printer.
Right. That's why it takes longer to print locally at home than it does at work.
Yes.
Because at work, it sends the whole file and it resides over there, versus home, it sends part of the file, then the next part of the file, the next part, until it gets done.
Yeah.
Now,
By the time you have walked over to the printer that's 50 feet away at work, the file's already done because you've got that the person transportation time.
Now, there are some things that home printers, if they are on a network, have in common with these enterprise printers. You do have remote access to the printer. You do have an administrator control area, and you need to make sure that's secure. WPS has already been discussed in this session, and that needs to be considered as a security issue. And if you have a laser printer, something that's got a drum, that will retain copies of some of the last things you printed.
Because that's got more memory in there.
Well, also the physical drum itself.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the drum. Yeah.
That
Well,
carries less copy.
Now, the drum, mind you, is fairly, unless it's a big commercial printer, the drums are relatively small. So you might get a quarter of a page still on that drum or something.
Yeah, mostly it's a matter of securing your printer the way you would anything on your network. Somebody outside of your home network might be able to get into that network and get into the administrator area. So you need to worry about passwords, and you need to worry about various kinds of security and firmware upgrades. Printers have regular firmware upgrades, and most people don't get them.
So do your routers, managed switches. There's a hell of a lot of stuff. Even your hard drives, old spinning hard drives, believe it or not, can end up with a firmware update. I don't remember ever doing such a firmware update on a hard drive, but I know they do exist. It's also quite common on the SSDs. I've had several SSDs where I did upgrade the software.
Right, right. Firmware on SSDs I've done. Not so much on hard drives, but SSDs. Very infrequent. Usually right after they come out, you might get one or two and that's it. Anyone else? Okay, what else? Other topics that were on my a topic list someone like this to discuss? Did anyone review it besides besides Jack?
Power toys would be a
Power toys, see?
good some discussion.
Okay. Let's see how to use power toys. Let me just pull this one
It's
up.
sort of coming back. It was popular a few years ago and it's coming back.
Yes. Okay, I'm pulling up the article for us and I'll share our screen here. And everyone see this okay, correct?
Yes.
Boy, what did I do?
All right. Oh, it looks like there's power toys for XP. I don't know if there's any audio on this one. I don't know why we got this going on here. This is not good. You know what? We don't need XP. I don't know why they have power toys for XP. Windows Power Toys been out since what? Windows 95? So there was several things that they used to have in there that didn't come with Windows. Was CD autoplay, desktop. You could do resolution changes, better calculator, yada, yada, yada. But we're more concerned over Power Toys for Windows 10. It's an open source project. And Mary wants to come in. And you got to go to GitHub page to get it. Because I don't think this is, before Power Toys came from Microsoft, but it was not a sanctioned product. It was from their developers who came up with this stuff and said, hey, let's make this available to everybody else. So the PowerToys here is an open source one. And you got to download the PowerToys setup, and it gives you the number, and it's an MSI. And then you want to make sure you run it as an administrator. And cross your fingers that you're not really downloading a virus. Okay, wait, I somehow jumped ahead. Sorry for me moving around. Fancy zones. What is that?
I think it competes with a product called Fences. And Fences was a paid-for product that put kind of like zones on your desktop to organize all your desktop icons.
Yes.
Some people don't like desktop icons. Some people can't find a blank space on their desktop.
Yeah. I personally like Fences. I've used it on most of my machines. I found it very useful because it helps me organize everything, and then you could set up, you could, here, if I pull up my desktop here, can you guys see my desktop? No. Let me go back here and change my sharing.
The share for your desktop is called screen.
Yeah. Okay, I got it. How do I do this? Sorry, oh, stop sharing. Got it. Sorry. My bad here, and I'll do this share. Where does it say desktop?
It says screen.
Oh, screen. Got it. Thank you. I'm glad I got an expert here. So this is, if you could see my desktop, which is kind of cluttered, but I still got crap in there. I have using Fences, and Fences gives me these folders like this one that says programs, and this one over here that says folders, and then I put files over here, and you can move this in mass. Are you guys able to see that?
Yes.
That I can slide these up and down. I can change the size of these boxes that these files are. So think of it as a folder on my desktop that is semi-transparent or mostly transparent, because you can alter the opacity of the boxes. So I have it mostly see-through. You could see maybe a delineation here where this line is, and I could make it bigger or smaller. The other nice thing that it does is it'll take a snapshot of your desktop, and in the event that something gets screwed up on your desktop, you can restore your desktop to the way it was. Now, this is not saying it restores files. It just says it restores the look of the desktop. Sometimes when I'll hook up a projector, I was having this problem when I go to our tips and tricks SIG and I hook my laptop up to the projector. The resolution of the projector was different than the resolution of my screen. So Windows would rearrange my desktop to fit the resolution of the projector. And it would move all my folders and stuff around, and I'd lose track of where things were. At the end of the session, I would just choose restore desktop, and it'll restore it for me to the way it was. You guys follow me on that?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Now I will go back to our topic here, and there's this one. And we're back to this. So we got this zones. I like this thing. I might have to download this and try this out. Fancy zones. I don't know if it's going to be good or bad.
Try it, you might like it.
I tried. I might like it. That's right. Exactly. I might like it a lot, and then I can dump Fences and go to this instead. File Explorer Preview. That's a nice thing. When you click on a file, it'll actually preview it for you instead of just giving you the file name. The next one, Image Resizer. This is probably the best tool that I used to use all the time. And I'll download it and put this in just for this tool. What I use this for is when I've got my photos and they come in, they're native 20 megapixel, they're huge, they're 5 gigs each photo or something like 5 megabyte or whatever they are. They're huge. You can, on the fly, just by right-clicking on the file, you right-click and you, with the Power Toys, and you can resize it to a smaller size. And this way you can email it easily to somebody, because you may not need to send somebody the 20 megabyte file. You just need to send them something that's less than a 512K or something. So it's kind of nice to be able to do that. I think Image Resizer is the best tool that they had. Keyboard remapping. Now, back in the day, I liked this function. I used to remap my keyboard once in a while. Put in keys that I used to need to use all the time. Anyone else ever use keyboard mapping?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so there is a value to this one.
Sanford,
Yes.
when I have my Chromebook and I switch over to Linux, I have to remap the keyboard. That's done in Linux and it's done differently from Windows.
Okay. Yeah, it's a different, what keys do they move around on you? It's not all of them, it's just some of them, right?
There's no caps lock, there's no forward delete, there's things of that nature. And you have to remap in order to get them.
Huh.
Chromebooks are a little more restrictive by not having a caps lock key, but I've never had a big issue with it. But I do know there are a lot of various hacks that you can do on the Chromebook to turn the key into a standardized cap locks type key. And that's basically what Bob's talking about, using a key mapper.
Okay.
Can you use the key remapping just to turn cap lock off? So when you hit it, it's dead?
There is no cap lock on a Chromebook. It's kind of like a shift key. And I don't understand it. Its original purpose is for doing an internet search. And I don't know how many people bothered to ever use it for the search function. I never did.
Sometimes I hit it by mistake and screw up a lot of stuff, and I just as soon shut it off.
Oh, the caps lock?
Yeah.
So you're saying your caps lock is always on?
Well, no, not always on, but I just wondered if I hit it by mistake, it doesn't, it's a dead key.
Oh, so you want to
caps,
look, sorry.
Through a remapper, you can make that essentially a dead key.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you could do it with this.
Okay.
That was the big thing I used to do too. It's Jack Luff, and I used to change caps lock just to be a shift. So I had 2 shift keys.
I use key remapping on a Lenovo Flex 4 machine that had the shift key in the wrong place. And I had to use one of the arrow keys so that if it hit either one of those, I would get a shift. And then it made the machine usable for touch typing.
Well, I'm a touch typer too in that, and I've got quite a variety of machines. And when you get into the real small ones, like a 10-inch laptop, is that fun trying to touch type while the keyboards are not standard layout, they're compacted layouts. And you end up hitting a bunch of wrong keys. And by the time you realize what it is, you got to back up quite a bit and redo it.
Right, right.
Now, what I was talking about in the Chromebook when I use Linux is when I'm in the Linux operating system, it cannot use the Chromebook native key map. You have to create a new one or call up a new one.
That's true.
That is dependent upon the Linux operating system and all its vagaries, which means you have 5 different locations to edit.
Can you record those as separate programs so that you don't have to go through all the detail of remapping it for each different setup?
Well,
Like-
once you have a remap,
Like a
once you
batch
have,
file?
what was that, Wayne?
I was saying, if you had different machines and you had to change the remapping, could you make it like a batch file of it, give it a name, and then so that you didn't have to keep doing it every time you switch machines?
Each operating system, whether it's Windows, Linux, Chrome operating system, has its own way of doing key mapping.
Oh,
And so you can save the configuration for your particular operating system. Apple does it differently, and Android has a key map. There are all kinds of others.
okay.
But yes, these files are portable, and these configurations are portable.
Okay.
Looking through the rest of this, I don't understand this PowerToys run function. Quickly launching applications, I don't know what is that different than, oh, you can just type it in a search and then it'll run it. I don't know, that one doesn't really do anything, and I'm not sure what the shortcut guide does. And I think that's most of what's in PowerToys.
I think the shortcut guide
Yeah.
is a guide to the shortcut keys inside of PowerToys.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Because it's like you can press Control+1, it'll take it tells you that if you press Control plus one of the number keys, it'll go left to right with the programs on your taskbar at the bottom and load those one at a time for you, etc. So if it's turned on, if you have PowerToys on. So that's what I found out that one.
So does anyone here actually use PowerToys?
Just
Okay.
long enough to figure out that one feature.
I've played with it a little bit, but not enough that I haven't had enough time to really experiment with it. Hopefully after the surgery, I can deal with it better.
Oh, while you're recuperating, you can do it. You'd be sitting around doing nothing anyways.
What do you mean sitting around?
Laying
Usually
around.
Just laying around.
Laying around, well, but then you got, rehab and all the other gunk they're gonna put you through.
The way they're talking, I don't know whether I'll have a rehab for this, but on May 26th, when I went into ER for internal bleeding, it turned out, that I did have rehab for.
Okay.
And so I was really in 2 different hospitals for a total of about 2 weeks.
There's
Okay.
a lot of people that have had surgery and the rehab is backed up. They're waiting for them to open up. So that a lot of the phase 3 people in cardiac rehab are stuck because when they open up again, instead of having 30 to a class, they probably have 10 or 12. And they've got to go through everybody that's had surgery in the last 5 months. So that means that our rehab phase 3 classes won't resume for maybe a year or so.
Well, see, for me, I live in Northwest Indiana, and there are no surgeons for the type of operation I need. So the only way I could get this thing removed is to go to the University of Chicago.
Okay,
Good place to go.
yeah. They'll take good care of you.
They'll take good care of you. All right, what else did we have on the list here that anyone see was interesting that they wanted us to discuss? No, right?
How to scan with Defender.
How to scan with Defender on Windows 10. Okay. that one I thought was pretty easy, wasn't it? And I'll pull that up in just a second here. Okay. So let me go and share the screen here.
There is one of those scans. I've never been able to get to work on my nuke because it has some kind of a hardware timeout. And that's Windows Defender offline. It quits at 91% and restarts without reporting. I think there's a hardware timeout.
Unless it hangs up on something.
Also possible.
You know, I know I've had other programs that when they'll get to that 99% and they don't finish, it's because they hung up on something. I'm sure you do this, and I'm sure it's been done, but you may want to do like a check disk or a scan disk and make sure that your hard drive has got good integrity.
It's an SSD. It's been checked, and also SFC scan now to check the Windows files for integrity.
Right. Okay.
Bob, I would check for a power options timeout if it's under Windows versus Linux, because usually for some of my large downloads, what I end up doing is taking and setting the power option when I am plugged in and setting it to never go to sleep. And what you may be experiencing is the hard drive after a period of time going to sleep.
Tim, yes, that's true. However, Windows isn't the only thing that can control this. It can be controlled by firmware. It can be controlled by graphics. It can be controlled by some other things. So so it's a matter of trying to tease out which piece of hardware is doing it.
But can't you sit there and just move the mouse every certain period of time? Just wiggle the mouse until it's done.
Well, if you are sitting there in front of it, yes. But if you walked away to do something else, that's hard to do unless you got very long arms with eyeballs that'll pop out and go to the site.
But that's the only way to really guarantee you'll get your result. Sometimes.
Actually, I have sat there and kept the mouse moving, and it does the same thing, 91% or 61,000 files. And it's not the same file every time.
Oh boy.
All right, so the procedure here for this scan now, or Windows Defender, is you actually go to the Start menu and type in Windows Security, and then click on Windows Security App, as the icon will pop up. When you do that, you're going to make sure you click on Virus and Threat Protection. And then Scan Options. You guys are kind of following this. And so you got a quick scan, full scan, custom scans, Windows Defender offline scan. Now, most of us do quick scans because most of the time that's what happens in the background. But I do recommend every once in a while, and maybe somebody might say how often to do this. I think it depends on how often you're surfing the web on sites or get diverted to a site you may think you might have caught something from. You might want to do a full scan, have it run, go to bed, wake up the next morning. And hopefully, like Bob was saying, you won't have the problem with it going, but or time it out on them.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Go ahead. Okay.
Wayne was talking.
No, I'm all right.
And then you
Okay.
can do an offline scan, which will reboot your system, and it'll do a scan for malware. I think that's what you were doing, right, Bob? Was an offline scan?
It's the offline scan that doesn't seem to work for me on my particular hardware, however it is configured. I'm not
Okay.
sure why. But once a
Um,
month I do the full scan, and that's just part of my regular routine.
Okay.
And for me, even on a fairly full SSD with a modern processor, it'll never take more than 4 hours, usually about a couple of hours.
Okay.
Oh, what's the benefit
So we
of
have-
doing what is the benefit of doing an offline scan?
You do not have the operating system active. You don't have anything active. So it can catch stuff that starts up pre-boot and stuff that
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good thing to do if you think you might have caught something, because some nefarious programs can load in and hide themselves very well.
Mhm.
And they'll be resident in memory. You get done with the scan, they'll rewrite themselves to the hard drive.
Mhm.
But an offline scan will hopefully catch that and prevent that from happening. Hopefully.
the offline scan still takes place in memory. So if there's anything in memory, it won't be flushed out.
Right.
However, it will catch anything that's on the hard drive, even something that tries to hide, and normally Windows would help it hide.
So I'm just kind of sifting through here, and you could see what it finds. If it finds a virus, it will tell you, it'll give you an action function, and you can go through the steps to eradicate whatever it is it's finding. So this is a good thing to do.
Mhm.
By default, our systems, I think they do quick scans almost daily.
Mhm.
But full scans, by default, it doesn't do that. Now, if you can do the custom, which you tell it to go and specifically scan certain folders if you feel need to. There you go.
That works well if you downloaded something and you really want to make sure that it's clean.
Yeah, like you put it onto a USB or a certain folder or something, you want to double check it. And I've done that. I've downloaded a file and then right click on it and tell Defender to go ahead and scan that particular file to make sure it's okay.
Mhm.
A lot of times stuff that's downloaded will be scanned automatically by the system.
Mhm.
It is scanned, but it's scanned by a different set of features.
Uh-huh.
This scan does something different, something additional. Also, we might want to remind people that in your system tray area, you still have the Defender's Shield. And the Defender's Shield is another place where you can click and open it.
Let's see. Where's that little shield thing?
It may or may not be displaying as something
There it
visible.
is. Sorry. Stupid me. It's right there. And if I right click, I can run a quick scan, I guess, and check for updates, notifications, and view security dashboard. What does that do? Well, this is where I've been here before. Okay, it says because I haven't set up OneDrive. I keep getting these errors here. I don't have OneDrive set up.
Or you can also left click and it will open up that area of security in the settings.
Left click. Ah, of course, duh. I don't think of left click too much. I just think of that as click.
And this is how you can set up your custom scan and your full scan.
Right. All right, I think we covered that one. And we don't need to look at that, so I'll stop this. Next topic.
while you're looking for a topic, I ran into a problem solution today that a friend of mine had a problem with his Windows 10 upgrade to 2004. It happened about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he enlisted my help. I had worked with him and knew he was quite capable, and we couldn't figure out what the problem was. So he thought it was his hard drive or something. His system would go down and crawl all of a sudden for no reason whatsoever, and then after a while might speed up. It was random, nothing he could figure. So we kind of left it there. He was going to look into it further, and he went out and decided to completely reload his Windows 10 system and then upgrade it to 2004.
Oh, so he
And-
went from the original install to 2004?
Right.
Gotcha.
And everything was working fine. And then he found the problem. He loaded malware bytes. And apparently there's and I looked up, just scanned Google after we got through talking today. It was my fault for not asking him enough questions. And turns out that there is a conflict, and it turns out it's known now that you may have random problems with malware bytes. It's known, and they somehow haven't come up with an upgrade for it. So if you are one of the few that have gone up to 2004, beware of that. I'm still on 1903. Is anybody else going up to 2004?
No, but I had malware
Bert
bytes.
and I have gone to 2004 on some machines.
Yeah, but you
think
pushed
Bert-
it, right?
Pardon?
Haven't you pushed it?
No, I have pushed it, but I haven't had problems with malware bytes. However, in the last couple days, I did publish an article that there is some other kind of a problem going on with 2004 on some systems, dramatically slowing them down to a crawl.
Well, that's malware bytes, maybe.
No, from what I understood, it wasn't that issue. That was an older issue, and it could be that he has an older version of malware bytes that he has not updated.
Well, no, it's a
Mine-
brand new one because he just reestablished his system and
Well,
upgraded to 2004.
On
So-
every one of my systems that I've upgraded, both an upgrade and or clean install, I have malware bytes, and I have not run into that issue.
There's a battle between advanced IO bits, advanced system care, and malware bytes. And malware bytes will wipe out advanced system care.
Yes, but there's a way of stopping malware bytes from doing that because I use driver booster from IOBit, and it tries to do the same thing. It has to do with what malware bytes thinks is PUP software included with the installation of the individual IOBit software packages. But so far, I have not been able to discern what the PUP is, and I've used Driver Booster and some of the other pieces of software for lots of years. So I just go into Malware Bytes, and I tell it I want just a warning on the PUPs, and that's in one of the settings under Security and Privacy. And that way malware bytes will not remove it. I also use Avast as an AV package, and occasionally it wants to ding one or more of my long-standing packages for much the same reason. But you can train the program, at least with Avast and probably with AVG, since Avast owns that also, to kind of ignore it. But you got to really look carefully at the warning messages to know how to get into it and say, ignore this. And then it'll ignore it thereafter.
Have you ever run into a freezing of the screen and it says that there's a long running batch file? And then it'll shut off and everything will go again. And it usually is off for maybe 75 seconds. Anybody ever run across that?
Long running batch file?
Yeah.
I
No.
haven't heard of this one, but I don't do that many batch files anymore. I used to.
Are you
use
running,
them years
Wayne,
ago.
are you running batch files?
No, I'm not running any batch files at all, but that's what the thing comes up, that the reason that there's a problem, it says it's running a long batch file.
What is reporting this to you? Are you saying Windows Defender is?
Pardon?
Is it Windows Defender is giving you this message?
No, I'll be working on Office 2000 on my oldest machine. I've got Office 2007, and I'm running along working on that, and then all of a sudden I'll go to pick something and the screen is frozen, and it'll stay frozen for like 75 seconds, and it'll say that there was a long running batch file.
So macro may look like a batch file to it.
A macro,
Right.
Excuse me, not a batch file, a macro.
A macro.
So,
A long running macro.
Okay.
So a macro is a small program, and Windows Office uses a lot of them to do repetitive tasks. You'd use them in like Access and Excel more often than a Word. But if you're doing like a mail merge in Word, that would be a macro.
Yeah, you can think of a macro as though it were a script. And there are scripting languages as well as macro languages.
Yeah.
And there are also markup languages, things of that nature. And a script may run into a loop, or it may run into a slow process. In Linux, we run into this a lot. And the screen will just absolutely freeze on that app. The app can't close, nothing can happen until that process finishes or times out or crashes.
Right.
The same thing will happen in Office.
Okay.
In other words, the macro is still running and it ran into some kind of a hang-up.
Mm-hmm.
Nick, it's good to hear you chime in.
Another problem I run into is when I bring
No,
up
I'm awake.
a file in 07, it'll appear on the side of the screen, but it won't be on the main face. And I don't quite understand. Is there a setting in Excel that I really don't quite understand that one?
What was this?
It
Please
looks like
repeat.
there's two side-by-side windows in Excel. And when you bring the file up, instead of being in the main window that you're working on, you expect it to appear there. You can see a little end of it over on the side.
That sounds like a window that's off screen, and
Right.
there are various tricks that you can do to get that off screen type of a window back in the center, so that you can move it and adjust it any way you want to.
Okay.
So one thing you might try is you grab the top bar of the header bar of the one that's the big one and drag it to the center left.
Okay.
And then that will make it a half a window.
Right.
And then you should be able to click the one that you want to see, and then that should open up on the other half of the window.
Okay. Okay.
That half screen feature in Windows is called Snap.
Snap.
Snap, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And you can also snap to the corner to get quarter screen.
There's
Oh.
another way to have multiple up there. Down in the taskbar, you got that little up arrow. And if you right click on that, you can say, show windows stacked or windows side by side. So you can have multiple windows open, either one on top of the other or side by side.
Yeah.
That's an easier way to do it.
Which arrow is that again, Jerry?
Over on the right-hand side, there's a little up arrow. Next to links, there's an up arrow. Right click on it and you get a whole bunch of options there. You got the date and you got the monitor and you got your audio speaker. Mine happens to be next to, what is it, the my internet. So it was to the left
Is your
of the
task
internet.
bar on the side or up top or bottom?
On the bottom.
What's the name of that?
Oh, okay, the little up,
Little up arrow.
yeah.
Right click on it.
Oh, right click.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, okay, yeah, now I see it.
Yeah. Oh. What does it mean when it says show Windows ink workspace button? What's ink?
Where do you see that?
On right clicking on the,
Oh, I see. I
Yep.
see it. I see it. I don't know. I don't know right offhand.
Well, that's gonna well, what happens if I do that? Show Windows workspace button.
I didn't see anything happen on my screen.
Talk to Cortana.
That might just turn out to be when you're using the pen and you're using different colors and stuff like that. I think it might have to do with that controls on that.
sure, okay.
Okay,
But the two that you're after there is side by side or, you know,
Windows Ink is a whiteboard function, and it has other little features.
If you
Okay.
have a Surface device like I do, I have a pin. And a Surface acts as a tablet to begin with, unless it's the Surface Book. And you can take the pin, you can point to various things in place of a mouse button, or you can use it as a drawing device in, say, Paint, as an example.
Okay. Oh, okay.
And that's called ink.
I got you. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You can also annotate pictures or drawings.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, is there any other topics that we have going tonight that someone would like us to go over? Well, I think we've covered everything tonight. So what else should we talk about? Anyone looking to buy any new computers in the upcoming months?
No, I better lay low for a while.
Well, you just got like 6 new ones. Every time I turn around, Wayne, you're buying a new one. Does your
But I
wife
did-
know that you're buying a new computer?
I'm getting rid of old ones. I'm getting rid of old ones that have,
he doesn't know she's behind her. Behind him.
Your lovely wife is behind you, Wayne. I was trying to put you on the spot.
thank you. Well, first of all, it started out that when I switched from Windows 7 to Windows 10, I didn't want to screw up the only computer I had that was busy being productive. So I bought another computer with Windows 10 on it to learn that.
Okay.
And that computer had an SSD. So then I went up and I bought a SSD and changed my original machine so that it ran faster, but I left it. Let's see, and then I installed Windows on it after I got to know how to use Windows 10 on the new machine. And then I had a laptop that I used to carry to do SolidWorks that took so long to boot that it drove me completely buggy. and I didn't feel like, I thought it was too old to put an SSD in it. So I bought
They're
a machine
never,
to
they're
replace
never
that.
too old.
And then I needed a new iPad. My old iPad, my original iPads, all my iPads work perfect. But the problem is I can't download stuff because it won't let me have a high enough operating system number. So instead of buying a iPad, I bought a Dell 13.
Hmm.
It had the keyboard in it and everything. And I was real tickled with that. It's light and small and I can move it around easy. So that's the kind of the reasoning that went on.
All Apple devices can only get operating systems for about 5 years. Then they
Right.
become obsolete.
Yeah. Yeah.
By design.
As they say, there's no rest for the wicked.
And this also happens to Chromebooks. They eventually will no longer receive any updates. Then you can,
Luckily enough, my Dell is still getting the darn things, and they did change the policy on it. I don't remember exactly when it was, but now they support 7 or 8 years.
Oh, really? Okay.
yeah, that's a fair length of time. If it's still, if the hardware is still up and running at the end of that time, and if you feel adventurous, you can open up the back, take out the Write Protect screw, and convert it full-time to Linux.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
There's actually a screw.
A physical screw in most Chromebooks, I think every Chromebook.
That makes it write protected?
It makes the firmware write protected.
Is it on the motherboard?
It's on one of the circuit boards.
Huh, did not know this existed.
Huh.
And then can you reconfigure it to be a Windows machine if it could?
Not Windows, especially if it's ARM. If it's ARM, it's not going to do Windows.
Oh,
But
okay.
even if it's Intel x86,
What is an ARM machine?
It's an ARM processor, ARM.
Is that a manufacturer?
No, it's a scheme. It's a type of processor. It's like you have Intels that are based off of x86,
Right.
and then ARM is a different subscript, if you will. Right? Is that right, Bob?
ARM has a reduced instruction set.
Right, right.
And it is used usually in less powerful devices.
Is it the halfway between Chrome and regular?
Chrome usually runs on ARM, but it can also run on the regular x86. I have an x86 because I need that in order to run full Linux.
I was looking at my granddaughter's computer from school. It's a Chromebook, I believe. That's a bulletproof looking little machine. It's quite nice.
They are very rugged and very resilient. And if it's wrong, you just reset them.
Yeah.
That's
And
why they
there's-
make them for schools.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of educational software available.
It kind of
Microsoft-
reminded me a little bit of an old mil-spec laptop. It just kind of looked kind of bulldogish.
But they're pretty locked down too.
Chromebooks are very locked down, locked
Yeah.
into the vendor.
Yeah, but Chromebooks are changing a lot. You can now run Android apps, Linux apps, and guess what? They're really going to try and get some Windows apps also working on Chromebooks, but you'll have to have one of the more recent releases.
Yes, there's this thing called web apps that everybody's going toward.
Okay.
One of the problems they're having with those little boxes in school is that the kids always use headphones. And I've had to pull the stubs out of 5 or 6 jacks now because the headphones jack gets broken off in the socket.
And the
And they're a
kid,
real pain
In
And
other
then-
words, the kids walk away and they leave it hooked up and yanks it out and breaks it.
Right. And
They need-
it's their box that they take home.
Right.
So they got to take it to the office and then exchange out boxes. And the box without the headphone jack usable is unusable for the kids until they get some tech to go in there and take the whole thing apart and push out the pin.
Got it.
So they basically take the application program and get it off the laptop and put it into the cloud. And everybody operates so that they have control of the upgrades on the software or whatever, right? And they just have the products produced from the software.
Well, with
Basically-
the Chromebook, it's a case where you download the apps just like you do on an Android phone and or an iPhone, and you're running them locally. But
Oh.
most of them do require the internet to make them fully functional. But
Oh,
there are some apps that you can put on a Chromebook that run offline, and they use a cache.
okay.
When they run them in the schools, especially for K through 8, they have to hook up to the local school district for authentication to actually run the machine.
Yes, but that's because of the educational software.
That's
and
right.
for extra security to try and prevent bad people from
Doing things.
doing their thing with other people's systems.
Right.
Just like the problem that Zoom ran into.
Yeah, eventually we're going to end up having devices and computers that just connect us to the cloud, and our desktop will be there.
Mhm,
That's what Microsoft and the rest of them want.
mhm.
Well, they're already working on DASS, DAAS, excuse me, device as an access service.
Yeah, desktop as a service.
That was like the 1970s when we had mini computers and terminals. Right?
Yeah.
Somewhat.
Yeah, but not to fear. Linux is still going to be here, and Linux will always have the available option of running it as a desktop system.
Does anybody ever use LibreOffice in place of the Office?
Yes.
I do. Cheap.
What a show of hands. Who uses LibreOffice?
Yes.
You got 3, right?
I
Oh, 4.
sometimes.
Sometimes, Pete. So that's 4 people.
You have to understand with LibreOffice, it defaults to an open document standard. And what you have to do is go into Tools, Options, and go down to Save Files, I think it is. And under General, you can change it to Store Files as a Windows Office format, 2007 through Office 365 format.
Yeah, or you can also leave it as ODT because ODT is currently understood by Microsoft Office, the installed version, Word, and it is also usually understood by 365. That's a recent addition to Office.
Oh,
Yeah, for general sharing, I usually use just the Word doc, the docx.
mhm.
Well, since Wayne has 2007 and 2016, they might not have the ODT support, so he's better off if he tries LibreOffice to go and change that one setting. And I even have occasion in the upper section to change the storage path where it will find and save files too, so that it's a different device than the normal C hard drive.
Okay.
Yeah, LibreOffice has a lot of different ways it can save. And so it has a great deal of compatibility.
So what is a person giving up by going from Microsoft Office to LibreOffice? What are you giving up?
There will be features here.
Taking money out of my pocket and putting it in somebody else's pocket.
Okay, Bob?
There will be features here and there that won't be exactly the same. As some of the fancy Word stuff, some of the macros, some of the formatting, some of the Excel stuff might have problems. Some people have reported problems with pivot tables, things like that.
Okay, but for, does it have a PowerPoint thing?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
LibreOffice,
Presentation.
LibreOffice Impress.
Yes.
Press.
Right.
So it's, so program-wise, it's got the general functionality. So you've got a word processor, you have a spreadsheet program, and you have a PowerPoint type program.
You have
Is
a
there
math,
anything else?
you have a math program and a database.
Oh, so you got
the
to,
ki-
Yes, but the Word writer is pretty darn compatible with Microsoft unless you get into the very advanced features, which most people do not do.
Mhm.
And it's fairly reasonable with spreadsheets on the calc program. But as you start going into the other programs, there's less and less compatibility with comparable Microsoft products, even though they keep improving it.
Oh, okay.
So if you have Libra at your home box and you are attached to a corporation that uses Office at work, there are going to be compatibility issues with formatting and stuff like that that you've got to be aware of if you're moving the files back and forth. You
Okay.
can take a file in, you can read it in Libre, but if you go save it in Libre, it may not look the same when you go back to work, and you may not have the fonts you had at work because the fonts you have at work are normally installed by your IT, and fonts are specific to the machine that you're on rather than the program you're using.
right, those are always been a local thing based off of licensing.
Right.
Sometime on older laptops that I give away to the kids, pass them down the line, I clean everything out of them and then put LibreOffice on there. So at least they got stuff that they can, you know, get productivity right away.
That's a good thing for kids.
Yeah.
Just as a side note, when I was gainfully employed, we were definitely a Microsoft shop, but we actually had LibreOffice on the side because there was always some file format that Microsoft Office would not read, but that LibreOffice would read. So
Okay.
we'd read it into LibreOffice, save it as a doc file or XLS file, and go from there. We did that
Yeah,
probably
in
once
that
a month.
spectrum, that if there were a lot of businesses that were using Office 2004 and older, and when they came out with 2007, there were all kinds of problems because some businesses would use the 2007, and the people with 2004 and earlier couldn't use the files, and sometimes vice versa. But most of the time, the 2007 could read a 2004 or slightly earlier version and still get the point across. But there was a lot of headaches between those businesses and individuals using the older version and not upgrading to the newer version.
But there actually, at the time, there was a Microsoft utility that was not highly publicized, but you could use it in 2003, and it would read a 2007 file. You do get into some formatting and other issues, but when we were still in 2003, we used that for about 15 months until we went over to 2007.
Yeah, I think most of the people who got the information on that utility were in the enterprise, and very few in the small, medium businesses and let alone consumers.
I would second what you just said.
I would third it.
Yep.
Does anybody know how much difference there is between Excel 16, 2016, and 2019.
The big difference when you went to 2019 was a lot of collaborative tools. You could have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 people working on the same spreadsheet at the same time, each making changes, and it would keep things sorted out. If you tried to do that in some of the earlier ones, somebody would have the primary access and other people would be locked out.
Okay.
You can Google that and you'll come up with there's some videos as well as some text files that will tell you the exact differences between them.
Oh, okay.
Our friend at Google, they give you lots of answers. Anyone
One
else?
thing that one note regarding LibreOffice, about a year ago, they actually added pivot tables to the package. So that was one of the big differences between LibreOffice and Microsoft. But they did add the pivot tables, and they work pretty well.
Okay.
I'm not sure they're totally compatible with the Microsoft pivot tables, but certainly gave you that functionality.
Jack, you used to use a lot of pivot tables in your past life, didn't you?
I did in my past life, yes, and
Yeah.
large pivot tables as well.
Like how many lines? What would be your biggest?
Well, the big thing that we would use was actually do a pivot table against a Access database. So if you did it using Excel, you were limited to essentially a million lines. But doing it through Access, we had files that were 5 million records
Wow.
in there. And with reasonable computers, the use of them was pretty quick. And what we were doing, we were downloading information from insurance companies, aggregating it, and then make that stuff available. And a lot of that is actually available on the SOA.org website today. And you can go in and see some
But
of
I
the.
see where Excel has unlimited lines now.
It may be. I don't know whether that's true in the 19 or not.
I mean, back in the day, it was, what was it, 64,000
64K.
lines was the max or something?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Basically 64K was the
Yeah.
max it could handle.
And that was because of the addressing in Windows.
Right, right. It was
32-bit.
right. It was a 32-bit, so it was maxed out at 64,000 records.
Right.
And then when they went to 64-bit, they still had a max out.
But it was way the hell bigger.
Yeah, it was way to hell bigger.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of the machines that until fairly recent years, you were limited to 4 gig or less on almost all machines. Now you got to have at least 8 gigs of memory or more, so it kind of opens things up. But the bad part is the software usually is hard-coded versus checking how much memory you got and saying, well, I can bump you up on the size of the sheet. The bad part is if I send that sheet off to somebody else who has a lesser machine, good luck.
Yeah.
They ain't going to be able to do anything with it. On the other hand, that could be reversed, whereas they got a bigger machine than what you've got, and you can't handle a copy of their work.
Mm-hmm.
The only problem I've had with LibreOffice is when I want to put a landscape sheet in amongst a bunch of profile sheets. Their instructions are very confusing compared to Office.
Well,
In fact, what I've been going to do,
trying to make a clone as best they can without violating copyright infringements.
Yeah.
what I think I'm going to do is create a Word doc file in Office with both profile blank sheets and landscape blank sheets, and then put that over into LibreOffice, and if I need it, I'll have it there.
Yeah, you're not going to get as great a functionality out of LibreOffice or any of the other competing Office packages like LibreOffice that you're going to get out of Microsoft. Microsoft's been at it far longer, and they got so many bells and whistles. That's why most people never get higher than about 10% of the functionality of the program.
Right. Right.
Anyone else? I did have a problem that I ran into when I was, someone gave me a Lenovo laptop that they wanted me to upgrade from a spinning disk to an SSD. And so my process was to leave the spinner in the laptop, boot to a DVD or a CD, run a cloning program, and then clone it out to the external, take the SSD and put it into a caddy and hook that up to it, and then clone the drive off. The problem I had is that this particular Lenovo would not let me boot to the CD player. Even I went through the BIOS, the UEFI, I could not ever get it to boot to the CD player. It just would bypass it and go right to Windows. Even though it had an option in there to boot from an external device, it still would not boot from it. And it's not the device, it was the Lenovo UEFI.
Well, usually they give you an option in the BIOS to go from secure boot, which is UEFI, to legacy. Me and Bob Primick, I'm certain, are very, very familiar with the legacy. The machine I'm on right now, along with probably half of the other machines I've got, are all set to legacy. So I can stick in any kind of a stick, be it Linux or Chromium OS or one of the other various operating systems I may have available to be able to boot up, including for Macro Reflex own Rescue thumb drive. I have to have it set to legacy.
I could not find a legacy setting in this UEFI. It was,
well,
if
usually,
it was there, I couldn't find, I didn't see it.
Well, usually some of them say a legacy and some of them don't. Some of them just say secure boot,
Right.
and you have to turn it off, and that automatically defaults to legacy.
Right.
The difference between them is that legacy uses the BIOS to operate the computer, whereas UEFI has a specific partition on a hard drive in order to say, this is where you will find various operating systems and other things like that, so you can go launch them.
Okay. Well, it was just something I ran into. I did have do a workaround. I wound up taking the drive out, stick it all onto another machine and let it do the process, and got it done.
Been there, done that.
Right. I will say this Toshiba laptop, somebody had picked up for like $100 or something like that. It was really cheap. Maybe $125. I don't know. They got it as a package deal with a printer for like $200. So you didn't get much of a laptop here. I think it had 4 gigs of RAM and, you know, a 500 gig hard drive, and that was it. And it was a slow processor. And the person who had it was just frustrated because the thing was so darn slow. I'm thinking, oh, you bought a pretty darn slow machine. So they did buy an SSD. I did stick it in there. I will comment that to put this in, I had to basically disassemble the laptop, take the back cover, the bottom cover off, and it was a lot of work getting this thing apart. And once the way that they're making these now is that when you have the components separated, that is the cover separated from the body, this thing is so darn flimsy and it just wiggles all over the place. It's like a top cover, motherboard, bottom clamshell, they're stuck together, and all of that gives it the support. But if you open the thing up, it was just rocking and twisting all over the place. It was It was a pistol to break open too, because there's a lot of clips, including screws, but then a lot of clips that you had to open up to get to this thing.
Yeah, and in some of them, you gotta take out the bottom screws. Then you gotta take out the keyboard because there's more screws underneath that.
Yeah.
And instead of the bottom cover coming off, you're actually lifting the palm rest without the keyboard up
Yeah.
and accessing the computer at that point.
It's amazing how they're making them now. Very cheap and inexpensive, but that's how they get away with it.
Well, that's because the younger generation doesn't repair things a lot. It's a throwaway attitude. If it doesn't work right or it doesn't work at all, throw it away and get another one.
Well, it's not, I can't say it's the generation, it's the manufacturers that are doing that because that's what they want us to do.
That's because the current generation is more or less forcing it.
Right.
They're trying to make them as cheap as they can, and at the same time, too, yes, they are making the products so they don't last as long, but at the same time, too, the younger generation, they don't give a damn.
They don't give a damn. That's right. They're not going to upgrade them. Just throw them out and get the next one.
The other thing too is you've got your Apple mentality where there is very little options to upgrade anything.
Right.
People coming from
Well,
Apple-
yes and no. Apple has high quality components to start with. I have upgraded mine a fair amount, but when you get into portable devices like a laptop, etc., you're stuck usually with the graphics unit. Very few laptops, and they were made really for gamers, have an optional graphics card that can be changed out to another one, and it'll cost you an arm and a leg if it's still available from the manufacturer of the computer.
I basically use my old iPads as TV sets.
A TV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Using
Two
HDMI.
Comcast. I can record on it. I can do anything I want with. I've got two old iPads, and I just make them TVs.
Okay.
Yeah, I take mine into the garage.
And yeah, I was sitting about a year ago. I was sitting in a restaurant, and I looked up at the screen, and a program came on, and I wanted to record it. And I thought to myself, I pulled my smartphone out of my pocket. I went there and looked through the thing. Sure enough, I recorded the program when I got home. There it was on the screen, and I watched it.
Okay.
So lots of times, the point is the Apple stuff is really bulletproof, but what they're doing is they're blocking you out as to the limitations of the operating system so that, you can't download new apps, but it can be relegated to do stuff. I've got, wherever I'm at, I can use it as a TV.
Okay, I'd like
the
to.
laptops and the desktop units from Apple, you can reload them with Windows, but you have to buy the Windows license to do it.
Oh,
And they make a very good unit because their their quality of their hardware is so good that
Right.
that unit can keep running.
right. Yeah.
I'd like to know, is there any suggestions on topic direction that I should be going? Because I pick out a lot of topics, but I don't seem to get a lot of interest. So maybe people can give me an idea. Am I going in the right direction with these topics or some other suggestions?
I think they're kind of good.
I certainly easily like half of them as ones to follow up on. So it's,
Okay.
Yeah.
If you're getting people interested in as many as half, you're doing pretty well.
Okay. All right. All right. Is there any other last comments? Oh, Pete, sorry.
No, that was two
Thumbs up.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, see,
And
we
a
got
back up.
we got the Pacific Ocean over there. We've got the East Coast on the right side over here. I think the continent, and we're all here in the middle. The continent's covered. This is pretty darn good. Okay.
Terrific. Appreciate everybody's comments tonight. I learned a lot.
Okay. Is there anybody else? Any other last questions? Things we need to cover?
One suggestion, Sanford.
Yes,
you
sir.
might need to have a longer list.
A longer list. Okay.
Hey, I do hundreds or thousands of articles each month. You can list them all out.
Well, I could.
We'd have a
That
hard
would,
time.
that would, I try to sift through and sort through. So I'll take Bob's recommendation and come up with a longer list. And
That's just so we have more to choose from.
right. Now, just mind you that these suggestions do come from Tim. So I rely on Tim to pump these things out. So even though you're going to be laid up in the hospital or wherever you're going to be, Tim, you still got a job to do, because if you don't do your job, I can't do my job. Okay.
Well, I guarantee you, I've got Mondays coming up here, but I'm not sure about Tuesday, and I don't know after that.
Okay. Well, we've got a month here till my next meeting.
And you could always give us some homework. Each one of us come up with a few topics.
That might be a subject that might come up too. I might have to send that out to everybody and say, hey, come up with suggestion topics.
And you can always go back to some of the ones you've done, some of them that you've had some discussion on, and just redo those.
Okay. All right.
That's the thing, that a lot of old stuff I come across when I'm fishing for articles. And bottom line is, you say to yourself, gee, I remember that. And I could still use that, but I forgot about it, and I stopped using it years ago. Now they got something again, like that focus thing on power toys.
Right.
Which is like fences. And
Right.
I got to look into that. I haven't done so yet. So I'll have to see how that goes.
Okay. All right. Any other last questions for the group? If not, I'll see you all next month, and thank you for attending the Tips and Tricks SIG.
Tim,
Good.
good luck with
Good.
your.
Good luck on your operation, Tim.
Yes,
Good luck, Tim.
Good luck.
definitely.
Good luck, Tim.
Aloha.
Good night.
Good night, gentlemen.
Good
Thank
night,
you.
everybody.
Night.
Good night.
Jerry, stick around so I know what's in store for Thursday.
I'll stick around too for that.
So, Jerry, what do I need to know for Thursday's meeting? Can't hear you, Jerry. You're muted. There you go.
Bob is going to do browser, compare browsers in that.
Okay.
How long he'll do, I don't know. We've talked a little bit, and he's got some interesting things to talk about.
He's got a 6-hour presentation to do. I think he's got to boil it down to 45 minutes. You think you could do that, Bob?
Well, he's got it down to 20.
There's always more stuff you can learn
I know.
about Edge and Chrome. And what I want to do is try features that they share in common. And if they have some things that one has that the other doesn't, see whether there might be an extension that has it. And if there isn't an extension, just declare, hey, this one does it, this one doesn't.
Are you going to cover Firefox too?
I was not planning on covering Firefox because I don't have it in Windows.
Okay.
Yeah, he was just going to do Chrome and Edge.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we've only got 4 to 6 hours.
You know, open forum will be there. I've got a bunch of topics that I probably will talk about. One is a slideshow where I've got 4 different ways to do a slideshow that people probably don't know on how to do it.
Okay.
And you know, I came across it from Tim. It seemed intriguing, you know. And I've got a couple other things that I'll probably talk about. We'll see how long Bob takes, and then we'll take it from there. I've got a couple Edge things too. I don't know if Bob wants them or not. I'll just throw them in afterwards.
Okay.
You know, if he doesn't cover it.
Jerry, you can throw in whatever you want on Edge or Chrome if it isn't covered. And I'm saying I'm definitely not going to take more than about 20 to 30 minutes. There might be some discussion.
Yeah. But we'll see what happens.
Yep,
But it should be interesting, you know.
should be.
When my time is up, somebody will give me the hook.
Yeah.
Tonight, we had 21 people, though a couple of them didn't stay the whole time.
We had 21?
Yes,
Holy
22,
crap.
22.
Wait, are you counting Jerry twice?
Yeah,
No.
counted me twice.
I
So
didn't.
it's 21.
There was one person, Williams iPad. Do we know his last name?
That was Bill Powell, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's Bill Powell.
Bill Powell.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I know. It wasn't until he turned on the video that I realized who it was.
No, I knew right
Okay.
away. I knew right away who it was.
yeah, I can't remember everybody. So,
Yeah, that's okay.
nonetheless, the only one who wasn't a member was Pete.
Okay, good to know.
So he certainly adds a lot to the program.
He does add, he usually does, and I'm glad he comes in, even though he's chiming in from Hawaii.
You know, it's great.
It's great. It's great.
Well, hey, I come in from Boston and I'm still a member.
Yes, and we're grateful for it. We're grateful for it.
Well, we're just trying to get some statistics of how many people are participating in these meetings now.
This
was good.
This is the largest for my tips and trick. It's never had this many people at it.
Well, because we're inviting everybody, not just your own list.
Right. I see. And I think that's good. You know, it's not just isolating down to the little group that I originally had. I think this is good that we're expanding.
Yeah.
Now, you know, so in a sense, this is part of the Northwest region, along with Ed. We're always looking for somebody to be a regional director.
This is true. I don't know who you're going to find. Maybe Bob wants to be.
Oh, I'd be way up northeast.
He'd be the far northeast director.
Well, we do have an out-of-town category, but actually, I think, Bob, you're still in one of the regions locally.
He's in Region 3.
Yeah, Region 3, West Side.
West Side.
So, you know, as we keep doing this, people can attend 4 meetings a month like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is good.
So
I think I've been in on something like 4 in the past month, and this month probably the same.
well, we appreciate that.
Like I have said earlier, I've tightened up the security where I now have a security icon on my taskbar, and I can control a lot of different things. And such as, okay, I can enable the waiting room or de-enable it. Well, I enable the waiting room. Share screen, I can have it where nobody can share a screen. The host can share a screen, or a co-host can share a screen, or everyone can share a screen.
Have you, you were going to write up procedures on.
I'm working on that.
I'm not pushing you on that whatsoever.
I'm finding new things every day.
Okay, but I guess I'm saying is I'm assuming that you're going to put together some kind of procedure.
How to log in and everything.
Yeah,
like
and so that in the event that Jerry Sass is not available to coordinate this, we'll need to have a standby, and it could be Bert that's going to do it. I don't know, but somebody's got to be able to or it's me.
Well,
I don't know.
Each of the SIG leaders will be able to sign in and create, the meeting themselves.
Okay.
But I'm looking at something, how APCUG does it. I've got to wait till I get in touch with them to figure out, are they using the same ID and password, or are they using different ones? I noticed that the APC, when there's no administrator stuff to do with, and I'm wondering how they did that. There is an administrator, but he's never involved.
Mm-hmm.
You can start the meeting and everything like that, but the administrator has different rules. And
okay.
I've set that up a little. That's why I have that security icon.
I could see a training session to come up in the future.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm trying to put together a couple things. Also, the shared screen, I'm not completely happy with recording a shared screen.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see how today's came out.
Okay.
And see what the differences are. And that's a couple questions I got for APCUG. I don't know if they record up to YouTube or to the cloud. There, it only takes parts of the screen, maybe not all of it. And that's probably what I want. And then they probably edit it from there. I don't know.
Yeah. It could be a licensing function too.
No, I don't think
No.
so.
Okay.
It's how it's done. See, they don't use, they don't have video of everyone when they do a presentation. So that cuts out a lot of that stuff.
More like a webinar is what he's
Like a
saying.
webinar, yeah. So I'm, what is it? There's, I don't know if I can hit it or not. One of the APCU you guys is doing a Zoom 101. It's during the day when I have dialysis, and I'm going to try and see if I can get maybe 90% of that meeting and see if I can get some of these questions answered and see what happens. But I know, what is it, 7th to 15th, Bill James, I don't know if you remember him, Bert, he's doing another one on Edge on Windows browsers. So we'll see what he has to say. But
Well, there's always something going on.
there's always something going on, yeah.
Right. Always something going on. All right, gentlemen, I'm going to chime out. I'm going to end this
Okay.
meeting.
Thank you very much, Sanford.
You're
Great
welcome.
job as
Okay.
always.
All right.
Okay. Bye
Thanks,
for
Sanford.
everyone.
See you all Thursday.
Take care.
Bye.